In southeastern Turkey lies a site that rewrites the history of human belief. Göbekli Tepe, built around 9500 BC, this mysterious temple predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years, and the Egyptian pyramids by 7,000, long before writing, cities, or agriculture. People gathered here to worship unknown deities. It challenges the idea that religion came after civilization instead. It may have created it. Before farming, before metal tools, humans carved massive T-shaped pillars into limestone. These stones weigh up to 20 tons each and were arranged in circular enclosures with animal carvings. No homes were found, suggesting it was not a city but a sacred gathering place. This was not a village, it was a temple complex, possibly the oldest known on Earth. Archaeologists believe hunter-gatherers came from miles away to gather, feast, and worship. But who did they pray to? And why did they build such massive monuments without cities or kings? What drove these early humans to create the first temples long before organized religion existed? Göbekli Tepe isn't just old, it's revolutionary, hinting at a forgotten chapter in spiritual evil. It forces us to rethink everything. That religion may have been the first force uniting people. This place suggests that myth, spirit, and ritual guided civilization, not the other way around. The people who built it had no writing, no cities, and no metal, but they had vision and purpose. They carved animals, lions, vutuas, foxes, symbols of cosmic or sacred importance. They buried their sacred site under tons of earth deliberately, for reasons still unknown. Rediscovered in the 1990s, it remains one of archaeology's most mysterious discoveries. This is the story of humanity's first known religion, a forgotten faith before gods had names. Göbekli Tepe shows that before we could write, we could worship. The people who built Göbekli Tepe were hunter-gatherers, living without agriculture or permanent homes. They didn't grow crops, herd animals, or build cities yet. They moved 20-ton stones with precision. These early humans likely lived in small nomadic groups, spread across the Fertile Crescent. Despite their lack of farming, they had organized social structures to coordinate massive construction. How did they unite hundreds of people to build a sacred site with no rulers or written language? Some theorists believe religion itself was the to brought tribes together under shared purpose. Seasonal gatherings may have allowed distant clans to meet, trade, intermarry, and perform rituals. This social cohesion could have inspired the earliest steps toward civilization. They brought flint tools, hunted wild gazelles and boars, and feasted around sacred enclosures. Göbekli Tepe may have been a pilgrimage site, a spiritual center before temples even had priests. Bones found at the site suggest large feasts occurred, perhaps part of religious festivals. There's no evidence of royalty or clashed, the powerful unity of belief and shared mystery. The builders had no wheeled carts or pack animals, relying solely on human strength. This raises questions. What motivated them to work so hard for a place they didn't live in? Perhaps belief in gods, spirits, or cosmic cycles gave meaning to their effort and sacrifice. Religion may have been the first institution to inspire cooperation on a massive scale. They left no written myths, but their stones speak, shaped by faith deeper than memory. These were the first architects of the sacred, carving meaning into stone without words. Their legacy endures not in texts or empires but in silence, stone, and sky. Göbekli Tepe is their cathedral and, perhaps ours too. Göbekli Tepe's pillars are covered in relief, carvings of animals, foxes, snakes, boars, and birds. These animals weren't decorations, they were likely spiritual symbols of power and protection. Vultures may have represented the soul's journey, death, and sky deities watching from above. Snakes could have symbolized rebirth, danger, or the underworld forces that dwell in mystery. Foxes appear frequently, possibly guardians, tricksters, or sacred companions in early myths. There are no written names, but the carvings speak a visual language older than writing. Some enclosures even feature headless human bodies, possibly linked to ancient rituals or beliefs. The T-shaped pillars are believed to represent humans or gods, abstract, but full of meaning. Some feature arms and hands carved into stones. These were not just stones, but beings. This silent sculpture becomes the world's first mythology, told in symbols not yet verbalized. The layout of the stones may echo celestial patterns linking ritual with the stars above. One theory suggests a comet strike remembered through carved animal constellations. Another sees the site as an astronomical calendar, marking seasons and cycles. The animals may represent clan totems or mythic beings from early oral traditions. There is no writing, but there is art, intention, and design far beyond mere function. The carvings speak of fear, power, protection, and transformation. They're not just decorations, they are early prayers, etched into eternity. Each stone becomes a shrine, each animal a message half remembered, half divine. This was sacred storytelling, not of words, but of forms that stir the soul. A forgotten religion, carved in stone, still reaching through 11,000 years of silence. Some researchers believe Göbekli Tepe was more than just a template, was a celestial observatory. The arrangement of pillars may align with stars, solstices, or cosmic events in the ancient sky. Enclosure D, one of the oldest and most complete circles, faces toward the rising sun at certain times. Others claim alignments with the star Sirius, which first became visible on the horizon around 9100 BC. The layout might have mapped the heavens, connecting the sacred site to the cosmic order. Ancient people saw gods in the stars, stories in constellations, and omens in the movement of planets. Religion and astronomy were once one, tracking time, seasons, and divine messages in the sky. If true, Göbekli Tepe would be the world's oldest known astronomical temple. It may have been a calendar in stone helping predict solstices, migrations, and rituals. Even the animal symbols might reflect constellation Zan, early zodiac, carved in limestone. One carving shows a scorpion, possibly an early form of the Scorpius constellation. Others link the site to the younger Dryas comet event, a cosmic disaster remembered in myth. Whether myth or science, the builders clearly looked to the sky for meaning. To ancient minds, the sky was a sacred dome, home to gods, fate, and eternal cycles. Göbekli Tepe wasn't just sacred because of what was built, it was sacred because of where and how it was built. They may have believed the gods lived in the stars and came down through ritual and symbol. In this forgotten faith, astronomy was spirituality, and the heavens were holy texts. The circles of stone echoed the circles of stars, ritual below, cosmos above. The first temple may have been a mirror of the sky, connecting earth to the divine. They weren't just worshipping, they were listening to the universe. Göbekli Tepe predates writing by thousands of years, so we'll never read the prayers they offered. But the design and artifacts suggest a highly ritualistic culture rooted in sacred performance. Animal bones, tools, and drinking vessels found near the site hint at communal feasts or sacrifices. These gatherings may have marked seasonal changes, births, deaths, or sacred myths. Some believe the site hosted shamanic ceremonies, with altered states and symbolic reenactment. The T-shaped pillars representing gods or ancestors may have watched over these ancient rites. Enclosures acted like ritual chambers, with entrances, altars, and focal points of power. In some places, carvings of predator animals may have symbolized transformation or trial. Blood, wine, or sacred herbs may have been used to connect humans with spirit realms. No temples, no texts, no priests, yet something divine was clearly felt and honored here. The entire hilltop may have echoed with chants, drums, or silence heavy with meaning. Participants might have danced, fasted, or walked in ceremonial processions between circles. The architecture itself feels like a spiritual stage, guiding movement, sightlines, and focus. Even without language, these people created spaces of reverence and reverberation. They didn't need scripture there. Faith was in earth, stone, stars, and story. The rituals, though lost, shaped the hearts of generations, binding them to mystery and memory. Göbekli Tepe is religion in its rawest form, deep emotion carved in ancient geometry. The faiths practiced here were not yet named, but they were powerful enough to shape history. These forgotten ceremonies gave birth to sacred tradition long before Moses or Buddha. And in that silence, we hear the first voice of ritual, the human soul reaching out. One of the strangest facts about Göbekli Tepe is that its builders deliberately buried it under tons of earth. This wasn't erosion or natural disaster. They intentionally filled the enclosures with rubble and dirt. Why would ancient people bury something they had spent generations building and worshipping in? Some believe it was part of a sacred ritual closing the temple before moving on. Others suggest it was fear, perhaps, of changing beliefs, new gods, or an apocalyptic event. The burial preserved the site so well that pillars stand nearly untouched after 11,000 years. This act shows reverence, not abandonment like sealing a tomb or honoring a completed cycle. The burial may have marked a transition, a spiritual evolution, not destruction. Was it meant to be forgotten? Or was it hidden to protect sacred knowledge for the future? We may never know the full reason, but the intention is clear. This site mattered deeply. No other Neolithic site was preserved. This way Göbekli Tepe was not erased, but its rediscovery in 1994 was like opening a sacred time capsule from the dawn of faith. The mystery of its burial fuels theories of ancient wisdom, lost religions, and secret knowledge. Some fringe theories even suggest a lost civilization or contact with unknown intelligences. But even without speculation, the facts are strange and stirring enough. This was not ignorance, it was an act of memory, of ritual, of sacred closure. They didn't destroy it, they protected it with silence and stone. What we unearthed today was meant to endure not for worshippers, but for witnesses. They buried their gods, but left their altar message in earth, waiting to be read. Perhaps they knew we would one day return, still searching for the first light of faith. Göbekli Tepe flips everything we thought we knew about human development on its head. For decades, scholars believed agriculture came first, then villages, then religion. But Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite. Religion came first, and agriculture followed. The need to gather, worship, and feast may have driven humans to farm and settle nearby. The site's builders lived as hunter-gatherers, but nearby regions show early signs of cultivation. Some archaeologists now argue that temples created towns, not the other way around. Faith wasn't a product of civilization, it may have been its catalyst. Religion became the glue that bonded clans, shaped culture, and inspired architecture. Göbekli Tepe represents that moment when humans chose meaning over survival alone. They began shaping the world, not just for food, but for belief, identity, and myth. This was the beginning of shared symbols, sacred calendars, and complex social networks. It also hints that human cognition and spirituality were far more advanced than assumed. These were not primitive people, they were visionaries with spiritual depth and creative power. Göbekli Tepe doesn't show a spark of belief, it shows a roaring spiritual fire. Their efforts laid the foundation for all later religions, philosophies, and civilizations. Without them, there may have been no pyramids, no zoo. They began the project of humanity, to make meaning, tell stories, and touch the divine. This forgotten temple isn't just old, it's foundational. It's the root from which everything sacred and social began to grow. We owe our world to a people who carved gods before they planted seeds. Though Göbekli Tepe has no texts, it echoes through every religion that followed. The twin pillars may foreshadow sacred gates found in Judaism, Islam, and other ancient temples. The circular layouts resembled early stone circles and ziggurats that came thousands of years later. Themes of sacrifice, celestial worship, and sacred animals are universal across belief systems. Like later temples, Göbekli Tepe was placed on a high hill closer to the heavens. Its abstract gods without names remind us of early divine forces before personalized deities. Even the act of burial echoes later, holy practices honoring, protecting, and sanctifying sacred space. Its symbols mirror those in Egyptian, Sumerian, and Vedic myth: serpents, vultures, cosmic gates. Göbekli Tepe seems to whisper the first draft of the sacred and finished, but eternal. The same impulse to gather, chant, build, and believe runs from there to every faith today. This was the world before gods had faces, when belief was raw, primal, and cosmic. Before churches and temples, there was stone and sky faith, without name, but full of wonder. The builders gave us the first mythic architecture, a blueprint of the sacred for all ages. In a way, every holy place since is an echo of Göbekli Tepe. It proves that the divine is not a late invention but an ancient instinct. Even without gods as we know them, they worship the mystery beyond comprehension. This site unites all faiths, not through doctrine, but through shared human longing. The sacred began here, not in dogma, but in awe. We were born spiritual, and Göbekli Tepe is our oldest altar, a silent temple that still speaks to the soul. Göbekli Tepe's age and complexity have sparked wild theories, some scholarly, others fringe. Some claim it's proof of a lost advanced civilization, wiped out before recorded history. Others link it to Atlantis, alien contact, or pre-Ice Age knowledge passed down secretly. While most archaeologists reject extreme claims, the mysteries are still vast and real. Its sudden appearance, advanced artistry, and burials suggest hidden knowledge long forgotten. Some theorists suggest it encoded astronomical events, such as comet strikes or pole shifts. Others believe it preserves myths that later became global flood stories and divine epics. The serpent stealing knowledge, gods walking among men. These myths may have started here. Göbekli Tepe could be the mythic origin point, the true Eden behind ancient texts. Its builders remain unknown, their language lost, their gods unnamed, but their spirit survives. It may not solve every mystery, but it opens the door to rethinking our ancient past. Göbekli Tepe forces humility. Our ancestors were not primitive, but profound. And it asks, what else lies buried? What other sacred truths have we forgotten? The temple is not a final answer, it's a beginning, a question carved in stone. Some see it as proof that belief precedes civilization, that spirit is more ancient than science. Whether cosmic calendar or primal church, it reshapes history itself. Controversy surrounds it, but the wonder is universal. It doesn't matter if it was aliens or farmers, the fact is, it was human, and that humanity is what makes it sacred. Göbekli Tepe is not just a site, it's a message from our origins. Göbekli Tepe may be buried again one day, but its impact will echo forever. It's more than an archaeological site, it's the birthplace of belief. Before gods had temples, before myths had words, humans gathered to face the sacred. They built circles, not just of stone, but of meaning-shared rituals older than memory. Göbekli Tepe shows that religion isn't a byproduct of civilization, it may be its foundation. We were spiritual before we were agricultural, symbolic before we were scientific. These early builders gave us our first altar, our first cosmos, our first sense of the eternal. Their temple is silent, but it speaks louder than any book, louder than any sermon. It tells us that wonder, fear, and awe shaped us as deeply as fire or farming. Even now, standing among its ancient stones, you can feel the pull of something forgotten. Not a specific god, but a sacred presence, the raw energy of belief, born in stone and sky. Göbekli Tepe's legacy is not just historical, it's spiritual, emotional, and existential. It invites us to question, to remember, to reconnect with our primal roots, to understand who we were before we became who we are. Every sacred story, every temple, every prayer begins here in this place without words. We are not just the descendants of warriors or kings, we are the children of worshippers. They carved their faith into the earth and we still walk upon it. The religion of Göbekli Tepe is not lost, it lives within the sacred impulse in all of us. A temple before time, a faith before name, still waiting to be remembered. And when we listen closely, we hear them, the first believers.